Botox and filler is ruining cinema, and you will not believe just how bad it's gotten. So last week, I went to the cinema to watch the new movie, Freakier Friday, and I have not been able to stop thinking about it since. Not because it was a great movie, because it wasn't, but because of how ridiculous Lindsay Lohan's acting was. Her face is so pumped with Botox that her crying scenes looked more like she was severely constipated. And this isn't just a one-off situation, no, Hollywood actors and actresses have become obsessed, and I mean obsessed with Botox, fillers, and even full-on facial reconstruction. Kate Beckinsale, Anne Hathaway, Nicole Kidman, if you can name them, chances are they've been injected, plumped, or frozen into oblivion. I mean, it's gotten to the point where watching a film feels more like watching waxworks come to life. These faces don't move. They literally can't move, and it is so unsettling to watch. You can't sell heartbreak with eyebrows that haven't moved since 2019. You can't convincingly act scared or angry when your face is frozen solid. It completely goes against everything that acting is, and I genuinely can't understand how it's allowed. But this is just becoming more and more common, to the point where I struggle to think of any actress above the age of 25 who hasn't had work done. And do you want to know what the scariest part of all of this is? How eerily similar they're all starting to look. It's the same frozen forehead, the same inflated lips, the same white teeth. It's like they all went to the same surgeon with Facetune as their inspiration. And there's probably so many people out there right now who thinks I'm just exaggerating, right? But that is exactly the problem. We've gotten so used to seeing the exact same face in every single film that we haven't noticed how extreme it's gotten. When you look back at films 15 years ago, it's like a different world, and it is so shocking to see. For example, last night I watched Superbad for the very first time, and yes, I know what you're probably thinking. How has it taken me 17 years to watch it? I don't know, but that's besides the point. The whole time I was watching, I couldn't stop staring at Michael Cera's love interest. For some reason, she just stood out to me so much, and I couldn't figure out why. And then it hit me. It's because she just looked like a normal person. She had thin lips, unique teeth, and a forehead that actually moved. She just looked like your regular girl next door, and for some reason, that felt almost strange to see on screen. Because let's be honest, if that movie was made today, that role would 100% go to someone like Kaya Gerber. Even Emma Stone in the movie was almost unrecognizable just because of how normal she looked, which was a huge shock considering how different she's been looking recently. Seriously, these don't even look like the same person, and it is so sad to see. I miss real faces, faces that moved, wrinkled, and felt undeniably human, but those real faces are going extinct because now we're stuck with seeing 2025 Instagram faces in 18th century period dramas. It's actually diabolical. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now witnessing the death of immersion in cinema, and I don't think people realize just how extreme it's gotten in such a short amount of time. So strap yourselves in, take a deep breath as we dive into how Botox is ruining the future of cinema. The epidemic of Botox and filler has taken Hollywood by storm and is spreading faster than coronavirus in 2020. Of course, these procedures have been around for the longest time, but there is just something different about them now compared to how they used to be. 20 years ago, if someone was to mention to you a celebrity who had plastic surgery, the first thing that would come to mind was botched. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. The Donatella Versace's, the Mickey Rourke's. For some reason, every time one of these celebrities would get plastic surgery, it would always leave them with this horror movie type face that would literally terrify me. Flash forward to now, where the past 5 years feel more like 100 with how far we've come with the progression of technology. We've gone from that terrible looking AI video of Will Smith eating spaghetti in 2023 to now being able to make the exact same video look insanely realistic and in a matter of seconds. It's gotten to the point where even I'm getting tricked by AI videos, and I never thought that would happen to me. That video of the bunnies jumping on the trampoline really got me for some reason. Anyway, my point is, everyone always talks about the progression of technology in recent years, but not many people talk about the progression of other things such as plastic surgery. Over the past few months, there has been an alarming amount of stars who have crawled out of their cave looking like they've just taken a drink out of the fountain of youth. Just look at Christina Aguilera. I mean, she literally looks like she stepped out of a time machine. It is unbelievable. And she is not alone. In fact, there is an alarming amount of celebrities who have joined in on this trend, and people such as Kris Jenner, Nicole Kidman, Gwyneth Paltrow, Lindsay Lohan. At this point, the list is endless. So naturally, this really shocked me, as well as probably everyone else watching this video, so I decided to do some research to find out what this procedure is called, and it's called a dermaplane facelift, which is basically just a normal facelift, but literally on steroids. So in a normal facelift, they usually just take the skin and pull it back, giving that crazy kind of look, but in a dermaplane facelift, they take the skin as well as the fat and everything else underneath it, the muscle, and just pull it all back together, which gives it this smoother type of look. But it just reminds me of that scene in The Office where Dwight is freaking everyone out by wearing that creepy mask, because that's exactly what this is. You're basically just reattaching your own face as a mask. But despite how genuinely terrifying this sounds, these A-list stars were the first ones in line. Let's take a look at Anne Hathaway, who hasn't specifically said that she's had any work done, but come on, even Stevie Wonder could clock that she's had one of those facelifts. I mean, she practically looks vacuum sealed. Demi Moore, who recently starred in The Substance, ironically looks like she's taken the substance, because in what world is this a 62-year-old? Of course, these facelifts are constantly topped up with Botox and fillers. I mean, what's next? Are they gonna start injecting fish sperm into their faces? Oh wait, no, they actually are injecting fish sperm into their faces. More specifically, salmon sperm. I don't know if that makes it any better, probably not. Can you imagine being sat next to one of them on a hot day? Pooey, it'd be stinking of fish. And sure, there is nothing wrong with wanting to look younger, and I think a lot of them look kind of good in a Five Nights at Madame Tussauds kind of way, but it's their body, their choice, right? However, I strongly believe that Botox should be illegal when it comes to acting, and there is a very good reason why. You see, acting isn't about looking perfect, it's about movement. More specifically, it's about micro-expressions. Micro-expressions are the tiny blink and you'll miss it facial cues that our brains are literally wired to recognize. It's the tiny eyebrow twitch before someone lies. It's the skin bunching around the eyes when a smile is real. It's the forehead wrinkle when someone's trying not to cry. And the wild part is, we use these micro expressions every day without even thinking about it. You can tell when your friend's upset before they've even said a word, or when they're stuck talking to a creepy guy at a party and they want you to save them. We're tuned into these signals constantly in real life, so when we watch a movie, our brains are doing the exact same thing. For example, it's like when a character says, "I'm fine," but you can just tell from their face that they are lying out of their But that's exactly what makes a movie feel so real and powerful. As legendary director Alfred Hitchcock once said, the greatest special effect is a close-up of the human face. Flash forward to now, and that special effect is basically useless since majority of the Hollywood faces literally can't move.
I am very upset about this.
You don't look upset.
Oh, it's the Botox.
The problem is, Botox freezes the very tool that makes acting so powerful. Without micro-expressions, characters stop feeling human, leading us to get that uncanny valley feeling when watching certain performances. Nicole Kidman, for me, is hands down one of the worst offenders of this, because you cannot tell what type of emotion she's trying to portray. So I recently watched The Perfect Couple on Netflix, and there was this huge scene at the end where Nicole does this intense dramatic monologue, but all I could think about was, if you watch this scene without the sound on, you would have no idea what type of mood she's in. Is she happy, confused, or watching someone get hit by a car? It could genuinely be either one of these. Every time I see her projects, I just get subconsciously pulled out of the story, because all I can think about is, why doesn't her face move like a normal human being? Now, some people may argue that some of the best acting performances are more stoic and carry more of a blank, serious face, like Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs, but I argue that there is no such thing as a neutral face in acting or in real life. Even when someone looks blank, their face is constantly making tiny adjustments as they process what they're thinking or feeling, and those little adjustments are what makes a face feel alive. The most perfect example of what I'm trying to say is Tommy Lee Jones in No Country for Old Men. On the surface, his face barely moves, but it isn't blank. The tiniest shifts in his eyes, the slow exhale, the the slight tension in his jaw, they quietly carry all the grief and exhaustion of his character. His wrinkles also play a part of his character, and they make us automatically believe that he is a man who has seen a lot in his life. Now imagine if he showed up on set with a freshly frozen still face. The role wouldn't have hit the same at all. I mean, the movie is literally called No Country for Old Men, him being the old man. So no, the stillness in his acting isn't empty and blank, it's alive and breathing, and that's exactly what you lose when a face is frozen. Directors have been complaining about Botox for years, telling actors to stay far, far away. Back in 2003, Martin Scorsese complained about how so many actresses have had Botox now that it's hard to find one who can express emotion non-verbally or who can actually look angry. Well, I bet Scorsese is absolutely livid right now, because flash forward 2 decades later and things have just gotten so much worse. We're not just talking about aging movie stars trying to look younger, we're talking about actors in their 20s and 30s filling their face with Botox the second they see a wrinkle. And listen, you can do whatever you want to your body, but when you're an actor, this just becomes so distracting. Watching Ariana Grande in Wicked was genuinely a challenge for me, because the whole time I just couldn't stop fixating on her frozen forehead. She just looks like she's in a constant state of shock the entire time. It's the same with Sophia Carson, who has been all over Netflix recently. Her face genuinely doesn't move, and it's become so unbearable to watch. I'm not joking when I say that Netflix should be handing out compensation for the people who watched My Oxford Year, because that is 2 hours of my life I am never getting back. But what's interesting is that I've found that because Botox is literally unavoidable in Hollywood now, it's actually changed the way that movies are being filmed and edited. So of course I mentioned before about how important micro expressions are in film and how they can carry an entire scene without anyone even saying a word. Your eyes pick up these expressions and your brain fills in the blanks. That's how movies have always worked. They show you rather than tell you, but because Hollywood faces don't move anymore, directors don't have that option. They can't rely on a close-up to tell the story, so everything else has to overcompensate. They pump up the sad music, they add in cutaway shots to fill in the blanks, and most annoyingly of all, they spell out everything for you in the dialogue. Remember the iconic phrase, show don't tell? Well, in modern movies there is only overtell, because otherwise half the performances just look like someone trying to push out a fart. But if you think this stops with Botox, then you are sadly mistaken, because Botox was just the beginning, okay? This has levels. So of course, you've got your classic surgeries, such as lip filler, nose jobs, and Botox. But recently, we've started to see the rise of a whole new bunch of facial cosmetic procedures, such as eyelid removals, fox eye lifts, and a little something called preventative Botox. Yeah, I'm not joking when I say that it is now a trend for women, young women, to get Botox before they've even gotten a single wrinkle. Hollywood is literally the only place where people start anti-aging before they've even finished puberty. But I think the most heartbreaking one for me is a surgery called buccal fat removal, which is where they remove the fat from your cheeks, giving you this skeleton-like gaunt look. No, seriously, why am I able to see the outline of your skull? All jokes aside, the reason why this surgery just breaks my heart is because it truly just shows the erasure of individuality. Everyone is chasing the exact same sharp jawline, the same gaunt cheeks, and the same Instagram model look, and the result is that all of these actresses end up looking identical. It's like Hollywood and society has decided that there is only one acceptable face now, so everybody is just copy and pasting it. But let's think back for a second to classic films or even movies from 30 to 40 years ago. All the actresses used to stand out and look unique from one another. You had, say, a Barbra Streisand with her distinctive nose, a Cher with her strong features, a Julia Roberts with her big smile and expressive lines, a Winona Ryder with her unique elf-like face. They actually looked different from one another, and I think that's what a lot of people seem to forget. Fast forward to now, and it's like the goal is to erase any quirks or imperfections in their face, all to have the exact same look. And you know exactly what look I'm talking about. I want to quickly talk about Erin Moriarty, who played Starlight in the show The Boys. Now, if you've watched the show, you would know that her face drastically changed throughout the season. seasons. Erin started the show when she was just 25 years old and was known for having this beautiful baby-face youthful look. She was adored by fans and was an absolute standout in the show. But when season 3 came along, fans were shocked to see her drastic facial transformation. Her lips are filled, she's had the fat removed from her cheeks, her eyebrows are lifted, she's had a nose job. I mean, it literally looks like she's aged about 20 years, when in reality, it's only been about 3 years. It is just devastating to think that someone so beautiful could feel like they needed to change everything about themselves. I mean, it's literally like watching an angel lose their wings. I know that sounds so dramatic, but it's true. But I want to make sure that I don't blame the actor in this situation, because the amount of pressure that they are under is just unbelievably brutal. These actors don't just wake up one day thinking, hey, yeah, I want to change my entire face. They're told directly or even indirectly that their unique features or even just normal signs of aging will cost them jobs. So they cave in and conform to these new standards in the hopes that it will save their career. And sometimes this actually causes them to lose work, because now not only can they not emote properly, but they just blend into the sea of actors with the exact same face. And this type of face is so common that it actually has its own name: the iPhone face. The iPhone face describes a person who just looks unmistakably like a product of the 21st century, someone whose face has clearly been touched by modern beauty standards, technology, and trends. Basically, someone who just looks like they've seen an iPhone. Now, imagine this. You're watching a movie set in the 18th century with beautiful costumes, music, and scenery. You just feel completely sucked into this world. But then suddenly, someone with an iPhone face pops up onto screen, and now the only thing you're thinking about is, since when was lip filler and Botox around in the 1800s? Do you see the problem here? Because I definitely do. In Emily Bronte's classic novel, Wuthering Heights, she describes her lead female character, Catherine Earnshaw, as having features too marked and picturesque to be considered pretty. So tell me why in the new movie adaptation they turn around and cast Margot Robbie. Sorry? Catherine is supposed to be wild, untamed, and definitely not look like someone who just finished a TikTok makeup tutorial. Just look at the leaked pictures from set. In what world is she supposed to be portraying an 18-year-old in the 18th century? Emily Bronte's novel is all about class differences and being an outsider. The character isn't meant to embody conventional beauty standards. What makes her magnetic is her wild energy. When you cast someone who fits today's polished Instagram-ready standards, you lose that rawness. But things get even more wild when we look at the recent Netflix adaptation of Jane Austen's Persuasion, starring Dakota Johnson and set in the early 1800s. Now, there is a number of reasons why this adaptation was a crime against humanity, such as Dakota's character calling her love interest a 10, and another character calls herself an empath. But anyway, I am just gonna focus on Dakota's look in this adaptation because, oh boy, does she stand out, and not in a good way. Firstly, Dakota is gorgeous and actually relatively natural looking by today's Hollywood standards, but her features are just far too modern to fit in this time period. The Botox, the chiseled face, and especially her bangs, which don't fit into that era. In fact, in the 1800s, if you walked around with your hair like that, it would not only destroy yours, but your family's reputation, which is crazy but historically accurate. And these aren't just one-off things, okay? Just look at Michelle Randolph in 1923, full-on Instagram face in a period drama. Oh, and Addison Timlin in American Horror Story, set in the 1700s. Are you actually kidding me? Even shows set in more recent times still have this issue. Just look at the cast of Daisy Jones and the Six, which was set in the 1970s. I mean, she literally looks like she knows what Pinterest is. There are a ton of actresses who can fit into period dramas just perfectly. Someone for me who is a standout is Saoirse Ronan. I feel like she just looks like she exists in the time periods that she plays. She just has such a time-traveling face, if that makes sense. But for the rest of them, they just don't look like they fit into those time periods, and whilst I do believe that a lot of that comes down to those cosmetic procedures, I also think that we can pass some of the blame to the hair and makeup teams on set, because sometimes sometimes I just don't know what they're thinking. Just look at the show Bridgerton, okay, which when it aired was praised for how natural and fitting the characters looked. In season 1, Daphne and the rest of the cast had super soft light makeup, which actually fit into the early 1800s vibe that the show was supposed to have. It made sense, it felt real and authentic. But in season 3, well, that's a whole different story. The makeup was just way too modern for a period drama. I mean, we're talking about smoky eyes, contour, fake lashes, and even what looks like acrylic nails. I'm sorry, but if you showed me this picture out of context, I would genuinely think that you were showing me someone's finished prom makeup that they posted on Instagram. But you're trying to tell me this is set in 1815 London? There is just absolutely no way. Now, to be fair, Bridgerton has never strictly been historically accurate, and that's a part of the fun of the show. However, I still do stand by my point, and that is that it just completely breaks the immersion for me. It's the same story when I look at Timothée Chalamet's hair in the movie The King. Can someone please tell me why a king from the 15th century has a low taper fade? Anyone? No? Okay. The bottom line is when an actor's appearance is screaming 2025, I cannot accept them as a character from the 1800s or the 1900s or even 1980. And yes, I know that this sounds like a little bit of a rant, but guys, you just have to understand how passionate I am about movies pulling me into their worlds. I want to get lost in a film's reality, and period dramas are so good at immersing you in their story. But the second I see one of those modern faces, I am pulled straight back onto my couch. Now, at this point, you're probably thinking, yes, you've convinced me that Botox and fillers are ruining acting and breaking immersion, but why do actors just keep getting them? If it's so obviously harmful to their craft, then why is it getting worse every year? Well, here is the twisted irony, because as much as I'm against actors getting Botox and fillers and anything done to their face, I can understand why they do it. Hollywood is absolutely brutal, especially to women when it comes to looks and age. The phrase pressure to look a certain way is an understatement because it's more like an unspoken requirement in Hollywood. So let's break down why exactly this is, and firstly I want to start off with Hollywood's ageism problem. Since the beginning of Hollywood, actresses have faced the harsh reality that their career opportunities dip dramatically when they hit their late 30s and 40s. Actress Keely Hawes pointed out how now in her late 40s, she's only really getting cast as stereotypical retired or aging characters. Meanwhile, her male peers of the same age still play action heroes and romantic leads opposite women 15 years younger. I mean, it is actually insane. Obviously, there's always going to be a few outliers in this situation, so before you comment it, yes, I am aware, but I'm just saying that this is the case for the majority of women. But there is no denying the fact that older male actors get treated so differently compared to older female actors. Males are allowed to have saggy faces, grey hair, deep wrinkles on their face, and basically get iconic lead acting roles thrown at them. But women, one wrinkle and a casting director is like, okay, yeah, let's give her the role of the grandma. So what do many actresses do by the time they hit 35? They panic. In comes the Botox, the fillers, the facelifts, the fish sperm. And if you think I'm being dramatic, may I remind you of the 20-year-olds getting preventative Botox? I'm not being over dramatic here. And let me just say that it's not only women that this affects. While the pressure is the most intense for women, even men in Hollywood have started to join in with getting work done. The main ones right now being Ryan Gosling and Brad Pitt. But let me be clear here, because there is a big difference. For men, it almost feels like it's their own choice, but for women, it feels like it's an expectation if they want to keep working. So of course the ageism plays a factor, but also things like social media pressure and high definition cameras play a much bigger role than people think. There is literally no escaping this pressure to maintain a perfect image, and sometimes people take it way too far. Courtney Cox recently admitted that she fell so hard into this trap. She's been open about the fact how she got a ton of fillers in an effort to stay young because she thought that's what she had to do. She said that she kept getting a little more and a little more, thinking that she looked okay, until one day she realized that she didn't recognize herself, and to this day she regrets it so deeply. Now, I want to make it clear that I'm not saying all of this to justify it, I just wish that this pressure didn't exist. But in saying that, there are some fantastic examples of actresses who have refused to conform to these beauty standards, who I just I just love them so much. Kate Winslet literally said that she refuses to give in because as an actress, her job is to not freeze her expressions. Emma Thompson hilariously called the obsession with looking young absolutely mad, and she said that she's not fiddling about with herself to appease that. Frances McDormand openly said that she has not and will never mutate herself in any way, and that her partner literally has to stop her physically from saying something to other people, to friends who've had work done. She continued by saying that she's so full of fear and rage about what people have done to themselves. These women are just heroes in my book, and guess what? They're still winning awards, getting lead roles, which is solid proof that you can still age and kick butt in Hollywood, as rare as it seems. So yes, I think it's an incredibly difficult position to be in, and I don't blame anyone for doing what they do. On one hand, there's this insane pressure to stay young forever, but on the other, the second you start getting Botox, you're freezing the very thing that makes you a good actress in the first place. So how do we change this? Well, in my opinion, I think that we should start writing better roles for women of all ages so they don't feel this pressure to look 25 at 45. We need to celebrate character in faces and bring back individuality on our screens. And as viewers, we can be a part of the change by not feeding into the toxic, ageist commentary and by supporting films that embrace a natural cast. But if things don't change, then well, I'll still be here ranting about it in my video essays for one, but maybe I should start a campaign that says you can only be eligible for an Oscar if you can prove that you can move your forehead. I think that's a great idea. In conclusion, I think that Botox and fillers are doing incredible harm to the art of filmmaking. It's robbing us of the nuanced performances we could have had. It's making films less immersive, and it's erasing the diversity of human faces we used to see on the screen. We need actors that are allowed to look human, so that they can make us feel human emotions when we watch them. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of my very passionate rant. Thank you so much for watching. Comment down below your opinion on this video on Botox in film and if you agree or disagree with what I was saying. And if you made it this far, comment the word blockbuster so I can see the people who clearly love film as much as I do. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!